I'm a big Clone Wars fan. I really enjoyed Rebels, and now it's time to see the latest animation from Dave Filoni, Tales of the Jedi. Hey there guys, Tom here. Welcome back to my movie channel, and thank you very much for joining me for this, my ranking of the 6 short animated episodes called Tales of the Jedi. I thought, rather than just do a review, I thought, you know what, let's do a ranking video, because there's only 6 of them, they're really short, and it could be fun. So I'm going to start with, go from worst to best, and if you haven't seen Tales of the Jedi yet, this video will contain spoilers. I will be talking about spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen them yet, go and watch them and then come back and join me for this ranking. And if you have seen them, let me know how you would rank the episodes from worst to best in the comment section down below. And if you haven't been here before, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that notifications bell so you never miss out on my take on all things Star Wars. And also, by subscribing, the Force is stronger within you. Okay, so the worst episode by far to me, and Tales of the Jedi didn't get off to a great start because the first episode is called Life and Death. And it's basically about a story about Ahsoka on her home planet. She gets born and she's a baby, and basically her mother's taking her out hunting for some reason, or out into the woods to teach her a life lesson. And honestly, this episode bored me to death. Like, look, if you like this episode, that's great. If you found some meaning in it, fantastic. I don't want to take away from anybody who liked this episode. Just for me personally, this episode did not work. I thought it was boring, and I thought it was a complete waste of time. And I'm not going to spend much time talking about it. So I didn't like this episode. It really didn't work for me. If it did for you, that's fantastic. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 5 on my list is actually episode 5, which is Practice Makes Perfect. I enjoyed this episode a little bit more than the first one. The first one to me is the worst one by far. This one wasn't horrible, but I didn't really love it, right? So this episode it's the one where Anakin is training Ahsoka to deal with, you know, the clone, training her for the clones attacking her, and with the training remotes and all that. And that was nice to see. And you've got, you know, little baby Padawan Kanan there with Depa Palaba, and you know, it's fine, right? It's fine. And I guess you do get to see how Ahsoka was prepared for when Order 66 happened in the final season of Clone Wars that happened earlier this year, or last year, whenever it was. But again, I was looking for these shorts to, you know, show me something or tell me something about these characters that I didn't already know before. And I thought that was the purpose of these episodes was, hey, let's drop these short little episodes, but let's drop morsels of information and fill out some story beats that we haven't gotten to yet. And it just felt like, well, we know we've seen Ahsoka in training at various points throughout the Clone Wars. Did we really need this episode? And I did think it was nice at the end of the episode where you saw that scene, a different perspective of that scene from the final episode of Clone Wars where, you know, she's got Rex, and Rex is pretending to hold her captive in front of the other clones, and then eventually leading to her getting away. That was very poetic. I liked that. But again, not one of my favorite episodes. Didn't really love it. Okay, at number 4, I'm going with the second episode called Justice. This is the episode with young baby apprentice Qui-Gon Jinn and his master Count Dooku. And this was an episode where they have to go and they have to free a senator's son. And I thought this was interesting because, you know, seeing a younger Qui-Gon Jinn and obviously knowing that his master was Count Dooku and seeing that dynamic and how, you know, I was really thinking, oh, we'll see how Count Dooku trained Qui-Gon Jinn and all that. You don't really get a lot of that. You know, these are very short. They're like 15 minutes each. And you don't really get a lot of that. What this episode did was it dropped a little couple of, you know, hints and foreshadowing of... It sort of helped to establish Dooku's got a bit of a darker side. You know, why is Dooku getting slowly disillusioned with the practices of the Jedi Council? And that's what I liked about this episode. And I really wanted more from young Qui-Gon Jinn because Qui-Gon is one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars. And I think he's actually one of the greatest Jedi ever. But again, didn't really love this episode. Didn't really get out of it what I was hoping to get out of an episode focused around Dooku and Qui-Gon from when Dooku was still a Jedi Master. Like, that is cool, and I would watch a whole series on those two, because that, to me, is fascinating. I love that. It's something we haven't seen before, and I appreciate the episode for that. But again, I didn't really love this episode too much, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's fine. Okay, third on the list, we have the third episode called Choices. And this is the episode where Mace Windu and Count Dooku are sent to investigate the murder of a Jedi and bring that Jedi's body back to Coruscant so they can have the funeral and put it to rest. And, also investigate the corrupt senator that they don't know is corrupt. But regardless, I like this episode a lot more because it gave us a lot more, with the previous episode where you had, I said about Count Dooku, and you sort of get a bit of foreshadowing of why he's getting disillusioned with the council. This only furthered that. And him and Mace seeing that dynamic play out more than what we'd seen in Attack of the Clones or in Clone Wars or in, whatever. But I like this episode. Again, I get it. These are shorts. They're not full-length Clone Wars episodes, full-length Rebels episodes. They're very simple. And it's cool to see some dynamics and what they were sort of alluding to. And I think you needed, a couple of these to when you eventually get to the episode where Dooku turns, which I'll get to in a minute. You needed these two episodes, but I thought they could have done a bit more with these two. I don't know, further these characters a bit more than what they did. And I get it, they're shorts, you can't do too much, I understand that. But I was hoping for a little bit more depth in these, especially in this third episode as well. With him and Mace, I really enjoyed that. And seeing, especially at the end when he says to Mace, well, they picked you for the council over me. And you can clearly tell he was not happy with that decision. So again, I really like that aspect of it as well. Okay, my second favorite episode of Tales of the Jedi is the final episode, and it's Resolve. This is where you have Ahsoka on a planet, and this is post, season 7 of the Clone Wars. And, she's farming or whatever. It's a peaceful life, as Galen Erso said in Rogue One. And we really get to see in this episode, Bail Organa showing up and helping her, paying off the moment from, the end of Padme's funeral, which I really liked that whole scene. Ahsoka, just let me go on a tangent here. Ahsoka's scene at Padme's funeral was really special. I thought that was really, really well done. And seeing her relationship with Bail Organa and that moment, that heartbreaking moment when he says, "Why did you come?" And she says, "Because she was my friend," talking about Padme. Beautiful stuff. Absolutely. And those are the moments I wish we had more of in these shorts, is meaningful moments like that, sort of fill in the gaps a little bit here. So I enjoyed the final episode. I did. It wasn't my favorite, and we're going to get to my favorite right now. My favorite episode of this, and by far I think is the most interesting and the most dramatic and the most emotional, and the thing that I was really looking forward to seeing in this series. It is, I believe it's the 4th episode, and it's the Sith Lord. And this is really where we get to see Count Dooku. He's been disillusioned with the way the Jedi Council and the Senate have been behaving, and he's disillusioned with all that, and he turns to Sidious. And of course, I really like this episode because this is post Qui-Gon Jinn's death. And at the time of Phantom Menace, Count Dooku was still a Jedi, but he was in league and in touch with Sidious. For a long time, I've always known that, for the events of Attack of the Clones to take place and how entrenched Dooku is in the planning with Sidious in Attack of the Clones, he had to have been working with Sidious at the time of the Phantom Menace. And we do get to see a bit of that in this episode, and that's what I really, really liked about this too. Qui-Gon Jinn's death really did affect Dooku, and in quite a powerful way. And hearing Liam, at the start of this episode, hearing Liam Neeson talking as Qui-Gon Jinn, that was really cool. Seeing the moment that Dooku erased the Sifo Dyas Camino file from the Jedi archives, that was cool to see as well. We always knew he did it from Attack of the Clones, but it was cool to see the moment. I did always wonder, he had to punch in a code. Wouldn't they be able to trace who punched in the code to delete that file? Wouldn't that have been the easiest thing to do in Attack of the Clones? I don't know. If a planet does not appear on our records, it does not exist. But also, Yaddle. Yaddle's a badass, man. I love Yaddle, and she was voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard, who is great. I love her. And knowing that, finally hearing Yaddle speak, and that she doesn't speak the way Yoda speaks, so it kind of makes Yoda sound like he's talking like a weirdo, for no apparent reason. But seeing Dooku's downfall, I think, or at least the very, very beginnings of it, was really, really interesting to me. And I love the confrontation with him and Yaddle. Ian McDiarmid coming back as the Emperor, just in voice only. That was great as well. And I really, really liked this episode. This was this was by far the best episode out of the 6 of them to me. Because I feel like overall, I feel like a lot of these episodes, they were kind of a waste. They were kind of just like, we just put it there. And it was, I really wish, because if every one of these episodes was on this level and gave this much character to these episodes and depth and weight and intrigue as much as this episode did, being, they're only shorts, again, but this episode proved you can do it all. And I really, really like this episode. And if it wasn't for this episode being as good as it is and me enjoying it as much as I do, I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing this video. Like, Tales of the Jedi overall to me will go down as a bit of a disappointment, minus this one episode that I really, really liked. And the others I liked to dislike to varying degrees. Anyway, guys, that is my ranking of the 6 episodes of Tales of the Jedi. What is your ranking? Did you enjoy this series? Maybe you did. And if you did, that's fantastic. So leave your thoughts in the comment section below. My name is Tom. Thank you very much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.